Hi everyone, I'm Miss Chinecherem. Okay, today we are going to talking about mobility of labor. First of all, what is mobility? Mobility is the movement from one place to another, like human beings, vehicle, animal moving from one place to another. And what's labor? Labor is a physical or mental work people do for wages and salary. Then what is mobility of labor? Mobility of labor is the movement of labor from one place to another, from one job to another, from one occupation to another, and from one industry to another. We have types of mobility of labor. We have occupational mobility of labor. This is the movement of labor from one occupation to another. And occupational mobility of labor is divided into two. There are vertical and horizontal. When you're talking about vertical occupational mobility of labor, you're talking about moving from a lower grade to a higher grade. Like for example, moving from a bank clerk to a manager. Before, the laborer was a bank clerk, but after undergoing some training and education, he or she is now a manager. And we also have horizontal mobility of labor. These two forms of labor are under occupational mobility of labor. So horizontal mobility of labor is the movement of labor from one industry to another, but on the same level and grade. For example, a bank clerk working in a bank, then going to a company to work as a company clerk. So they are of the same level and grade. We have geographical mobility of labor, moving from one geographical to another. Geographical means a place, moving from one place to another. For example, moving from Enugu State to Lagos for a better life or for a better standard of living. We have industrial mobility of labor. This means labor moving from one industry to another. For example, moving from agricultural industry, where raw materials are being extracted from the earth, to constructive industry or manufacturing industry, where those raw materials are being processed. The laborer moved from agriculture, from the primary to the secondary, and so on. We also have sectorial mobility of labor. Okay, factors that influence mobility of labor. One there is education and training. The education and the extent of a laborer, maybe the extent of a laborer in education and training influence the mobility of labor. If a laborer undergo, high level of education and high level of training, it is easy for that laborer to move from one job to another because the person is a professional and the person gets high level in whatever he or she is doing. The next one is urge. The urge for someone to do something, or the broad mind for someone to learn something and do it, also influence the mobility of labor. For example, maybe I love teaching and I want to know more about this teaching. First of all, I have to develop that urge in me that I want to do this and I want to get it. So that urge will help the laborer, or we make the laborer, or we give that laborer broad mind to go into that teaching profession. We have means of transportation. The means of transportation also influence mobility of labor. If there is an advanced means of transportation, when a laborer knows that even when he is far from his family, he can be able to communicate his family. He can be able to move from that place to where his family is in case of emergency. The laborer knows that the laborer is assured that he or she can be able to reach home. Whether he's abroad, he can fly back with aeroplane, or even if he's within the country, he can move from one place to another with train and bus. State help. When government creates job opportunities like public work for individuals or citizens, we see people moving from rural area to urban areas to work. So we also have advertisements. Maybe a job is being advertised on TV, radio, newspaper, billboard. You see people moving from where they are to other places where they can find a better standard of living. We also have industrialization, whereby more industry are being built for people to move from one place to another. You see people moving from the rural areas to urban areas.